On June 12, 2026, a private American aerospace company called SpaceX went public on the New York Stock Exchange. The IPO raised approximately $75 billion. The company was valued, at close of the first trading day, at $1.77 trillion. It was the largest initial public offering, at the largest valuation, in the recorded financial history of the world. The founder and controlling shareholder of the company is a South African-born American entrepreneur named Elon Musk. His personal stake in SpaceX at the time of the listing was approximately 40%. In one afternoon, his ownership of a single private company crossed $700 billion in market value. Combined with his positions in Tesla, X, and XAI, Musk's total personal net worth crossed $1 trillion for the first time in human history, the first individual ever to cross that line. Now sit with what the market actually paid for that day. SpaceX does not really sell rockets. It sells access to orbit. Its Falcon 9 launcher is responsible in 2024 for roughly 90% of the commercial mass launched into space. Its Starlink constellation, currently around 7,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, provides internet to about 5 to 6 million paying subscribers worldwide. Its Starship program is being developed to move human beings and cargo to Mars. It's filed orbital slot claims with the FCC and the International Telecommunication Union in Geneva now cover 42,000 satellites, a claim on the low Earth orbit around your planet at a scale no company has ever attempted. At $1.77 trillion, the market was not paying for a rocket company. It was paying for physical possession of the road to space, the fleet driving on it, and the antenna feeding your neighbor's Wi-Fi. And it was paying for the fact that one man now controls all three. If you bought a satellite tomorrow, this is what you'd actually be buying. Then there's the launch monopoly, the physical mechanism by which one American company came to dominate access to orbit. A Falcon 9 rocket, per SpaceX's public price list, costs $67 million per flight to a low Earth orbit destination. A Falcon Heavy costs $97 million. The nearest reliable Western competitor, United Launch Alliance's Vulcan Centaur, costs approximately $110 to $150 million per flight. Rocket Lab's smaller Electron costs $7 to $8 million per flight, but only lifts a few hundred kilograms. In 2024, SpaceX launched approximately 130 Falcon family missions. Every other launch provider on Earth combined launched roughly 20% that volume. Falcon 9 lifted about 90% of the commercial mass placed into orbit that year. The reason is a decade of vertical integration. SpaceX designs the rocket, builds the rocket, tests the rocket, operates the launch pad, refurbishes the recovered first stage. Every stage of a launch owned by the same company. When SpaceX prices Falcon 9 at $67 million, the actual internal cost to launch a Starlink batch is dramatically lower. Estimates from industry analysts put the internal marginal cost per launch below $15 million. Every commercial satellite customer on Earth now competes to buy a Falcon 9 slot. There is no meaningful alternative at scale. SpaceX has become, without formal regulation, the price setter for orbital access on the planet. Then there's the orbital slot land grab, the mechanism by which one company built an unbreakable position not through engineering, but through paperwork. Every satellite in orbit occupies a specific altitude, at a specific inclination, in a specific portion of the radio spectrum. Assignment of those slots is coordinated by an obscure United Nations agency called the International Telecommunication Union, headquartered in Geneva. Filing an orbital slot with the ITU takes 7 to 10 years to fully coordinate with the existing satellites of other operators. First to file, first to fly. SpaceX has filed with the FCC and ITU for approximately 42,000 Starlink orbital slots spanning altitudes between 340 and 1,300 kilometers. Amazon's Kuiper has filed for 3,200. China's Guowang and Qianfan constellations have each filed for around 13,000. Total physically viable LEO slots before density becomes prohibitive is estimated at around 100,000. SpaceX alone has claimed 40% of them. Once a slot is filed and used, it functions as de facto private property for decades. There is no framework for reclaiming or redistributing them. The rush is happening now, under decades-old regulatory rules never designed for constellations at this scale. And the winners of that rush will effectively own their portion of the sky above the planet for the working lifetime of everyone alive today. Then there's the debt nobody counts. In 1978, a NASA scientist named Donald Kessler published a paper describing what happens when the density of objects in low Earth orbit reaches a critical threshold. One collision creates thousands of fragments. Each fragment can hit another satellite. Each new collision creates thousands more fragments. Above a certain density, the cascade continues indefinitely. The condition is called Kessler syndrome. Once triggered, low Earth orbit becomes physically unusable for centuries. In 2024, US Space Command tracked approximately 35,000 pieces of debris in orbit larger than 10 centimeters. Objects smaller than 10 centimeters but still lethal to a satellite are estimated at over 1 million. A 2009 collision between an Iridium satellite and a defunct Russian Cosmos satellite created around 2,000 new tracked pieces of debris still circling the planet today. Every operator that adds a satellite adds to the shared long-term risk. There is no framework for pricing that risk. No enforceable cleanup fund. No liability rule requiring the operator to remove its debris. The cost is real and rising. It is being deferred indefinitely to whoever tries to fly through the same altitude in 2070. Then there's Iridium. In 1998, a Motorola-backed venture called Iridium Communications finished launching a 66-satellite low-Earth orbit constellation designed to provide satellite telephony. Total capital invested, approximately $5 billion. 19 months later, in 1999, Iridium filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It was one of the largest corporate bankruptcies in US history at the time. In 2000, the company was purchased out of bankruptcy for approximately $25 million, a 200th of the original investment, by a private investor group backed largely by US Department of Defense communications contracts. The satellites, still in orbit, were now owned for pennies on the dollar. Iridium was reborn as a niche military plus aviation tracking operator and became modestly profitable. In June 2026, Rocket Lab acquired Iridium for approximately $8 billion. Its value had multiplied roughly 320 times from the bankruptcy purchase price. The physical satellites had depreciated. The spectrum rights and orbital slots those satellites occupied had not. The satellite business is cyclical. Individual constellations die. The right to occupy the orbit those constellations sat in does not. Then there's the insurance, the specialized market that funds every launch and every failure. A typical GEO satellite is insured for launch, plus first year in orbit, at approximately 10 to 15% of the satellite's hull value. On a $300 million satellite launched on Falcon 9, that means a premium of $30 to $50 million for the launch plus first year window. The global space insurance market is around $800 million in annual premiums, spread across roughly 10 underwriters. Aon Space, Marsh, Munich Re, Swiss Re. When Falcon 9 or Starship suffers a launch failure, Starship has had 6 test failures during development between 2023 and 2025. The insurance pool takes years to recover. CubeSat democratization. This is the mechanism that makes the title of this video literal. A CubeSat is a standardized 10-centimeter modular satellite bus, first proposed by Stanford and Cal Poly in 1999. A DIY educational-grade CubeSat costs $50,000 to $100,000 to build. A commercial-grade platform runs $200,000 to $500,000. Launch via SpaceX's Transporter rideshare program costs approximately $5,000 to $8,000 per kilogram, or about $550,000 for a 100-kilogram satellite. FCC and NOAA regulatory approval takes 6 to 18 months. You, personally, can buy your own satellite. Under $1 million turnkey. Your name on the FCC license, your data downlinked to your ground station, your imagery yours to sell. The mechanism is real. The title question is not rhetorical. Then there's Starlink, the revenue model that made the IPO valuation defensible. A Starlink residential subscription runs $80 to $120 per month, depending on market. The dish costs the consumer $349 to $599 upfront, but the consumer does not own the dish. It is rented, in effect, to service the subscription. Estimated total Starlink subscribers globally at end of 2024, 5 to 6 million. Estimated annual revenue, $8 to $10 billion. Analysts at the June 2026 IPO estimated Starlink alone to be worth 40 to 50% of SpaceX's $1.77 trillion valuation, roughly $700 to $800 billion for a division that did not exist in 2017. The mechanism is subscription. The same mechanism Netflix, Spotify, and every SaaS company uses, applied to the physical transmission of internet from space. The customer never owns the hardware. The customer never owns the network. The customer pays monthly, in perpetuity, for connectivity that the operator can throttle, disable, or geographically restrict at any time. Ukraine learned this in 2022 when Starlink service was restricted near Crimea by SpaceX at Elon Musk's personal decision. Last one. What the IPO actually monetized. SpaceX went public on June 12th at $1.77 trillion. Musk's stake was worth around $700 billion. His personal net worth crossed $1 trillion. That number did not appear because SpaceX built rockets. Rockets are difficult, but they are engineering. The number appeared because SpaceX had assembled an integrated position that no other entity, private or governmental, could match. The launch monopoly that decides what reaches orbit, the orbital-slot land grab that decides who owns which altitude, the constellation that captures the internet users below, and the vertical integration that makes competing on price impossible. The IPO priced ownership of orbit, $1.77 trillion, roughly 40% to one man. So look at what you actually bought, the last time you plugged in a router, or clicked on a satellite map, or opened a location app. You did not buy internet, you did not buy imagery, you did not buy connectivity. You paid rent to a private company that owns the road to space, the fleet driving on it, and the antenna feeding it back to your yard. The man who founded that company just took the biggest IPO in history public. He now personally owns the sky above your head at a scale no government or treaty ever contemplated. You didn't buy a satellite, you paid the tolls